Hello everyone, welcome to Random Act of Squirrel. Today is Act 13, Acts of Clatter and Discord, a digital girl and her Blockhead band, an NKOTB story. So this is a little bit different because life gets different sometimes. Normally I like to film about every other day and kind of get the feel of where I'm at, what I'm feeling, what seems interesting, that kind of thing. But because this is an NKOTB story to the rest of the world who is not Blockhead fans, that is New Kids on the Block, I'm not. My wife, well, the one I follow, my wife, the digital girl, she is. And I'll be going on a trip for, well, driving and stuff, a 40 cruise. So I will be away from internet and that kind of stuff because I refuse to pay for it on a boat. And I'm there to be with her. So what I figured to do is have some fun and kind of talk about all the different places that this digital girl has had me drive her places, because she can't drive, but she sells passion, and I like road trips. So I figure we'll walk through, talk a little bit about the band, the history of it, some of the stuff I've seen with them, and maybe there'll be a few songs, things I like about it, that kind of stuff too. If you haven't gathered from some of the other videos, this isn't my sort of default music. But I do have a deep respect for the band, the way they take care of this stuff, especially the way they take care of their fans. And we'll get into that a little bit closer in the third act. So, for those who weren't born in the 80s or aren't into boy bands and that kind of stuff, here's a quick rundown on who they are. They started in 84 with a very strange name. I think it's Ninook is how it's pronounced, and they quickly got rid of that. What I learned, which might be more than some of the New Kid fans don't have, so if this does get on the boat, that'd be really awesome, but that's another story entirely. I learned that one of the members, the 12-year-old, the youngest, the one who was the youngest at the time, everybody was about 15, 16, he was 12, Joel McIntyre, he actually isn't one of the original five. There's actually someone named Jamie Kelly who was there, and didn't work out right. They recruited Joe, and then they've basically been the same five people since then. They've had 5 albums that were out in their first run. They had the self-titled Hanging Tough, a holiday albums, Step by Step, and Face the Music. The second one is where they hit really big, and then from about 89 to 91, they were huge. So if you grew up in the area, they were like, I don't know, they're kind of the first real true boy band to come through. There was other stuff that had set the template, but the producer really mastered what made it work, and they're probably one of the first true boy bands. They were actually so successful and so popular that in 1990 into the 91 Super Bowl, which I remember more for the fact that the Bills almost won it with a kick that went way right, and then they lost at last moment. They were actually the halftime act, which was unusual at the time to have someone who was mainstream popular at the time, especially that level of popularity, be the main act. So that's kind of unique. So about 2 years they toured the world. They were huge. They were like BTS huge. And a lot of the grounds that I think some of these other bands have grown on have come from that. From the time of just being that intense on all those albums, though, it got exhausting. By 94, there was enough sort of tension between them. Music changed. That's a whole Nirvana. Alternative music changed, and they got older than they were when they first started, and they broke up. A couple people went on to do different things. A couple of them went into Broadway. Donnie Wahlberg went on to become an actor. I don't know if he's, or at least a notable actor. He did some TV, he did some movies, that kind of stuff. A couple other people did Broadway. One guy, he actually has an HGTV right now too. John Knight, he does too. In 2008, they got back together again, and they talked about it, felt it out, saw if this is something they really wanted to poke at, and they created the album and brought them back into the mainstream world. That was The Block, and they paired up with a lot of the main pop acts at that point in time. It was a huge success. A little bit later, they made the album 10. And somewhere in between there, they actually paired up with Backstreet Boys, who I think the main guy was not in at the time. And they did a world tour with them, and the whole thing was called NKOTB, or NKOTBSB. After that, they haven't released a lot of full albums. In 2018, 2019, they started something called a mixtape, where they got paired up with a lot of the 80s acts and started embracing not just the nostalgia, but also where their fans were, who was supporting them, that kind of stuff. So in 2010, they started the cruise, which we'll come back to in a moment. And when I went on the cruise, it was kind of amazing to see, I think it's 3,000 people on the boat, and it's like 80% women still infatuated with these 5 boys. The first mixtape tour had Debbie Gibson, Tiffany, Naughty by Nature. The second one had, I can't remember right now. Oh, and Salt and Pepper won that. The second one that I saw a couple of years later in 2022, that was Rick Astley, that was En Vogue, and Salt and Pepper again. So that gives you kind of a rundown to where they are. Where they started coming more involved in my life is in 2019 with that mixtape tour. My digital girl decided that she wanted to go see them on the mix tour. It's been a while since we'd done anything. She drove, so I was like, why not? So we went and saw them, and they put on a fantastic show. One of the things I absolutely loved about the show is the dedication they put to it. They know their fan base. They treat their fan base really well. And since it's a mixtape, they actually set it up so once the concert started, unlike, some concerts, like you have your headliner and then you have like the lesser acts that come first, that kind of thing. There was always a performance, there was always someone performing, and they had a smaller stage, that was a circular stage, where they would bounce back and forth between the main stage and the circle stage and just do different things. So once you got started, it was about 2 to 3 hours of nonstop music. And they said it was a mixtape that played like a mixtape. It was really good. So we saw them in Minneapolis, and then that thing called COVID happened and pretty much disrupted life. Somewhere in between there, they got their opportunity to start doing. They did a couple shows at Fenway Park. I think they weren't one of the first, or the first, but they were one of the first. They'd heard that Aerosmith had gone and done Fenway, and they asked if they would like to do it on their Fenway series, and they were like, sure. We never thought we'd play at Fenway, but they're from Boston. It's a dream come true. That trip got delayed for about a year due to COVID and life and chaos and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a small window in 2021 when the world did freak out between COVID version A and COVID version B, where Digital Girl and I drove to Boston. And we went to a concert in Fenway Park, and she decided, unfortunately, she had the problem standing behind the world's tallest man. And so I don't know how much of the shows she saw, but she loved the experience. And that was about the time, I think, Delta variant or whatever, the second version came through, and it hit Boston a lot harder than it hit Minneapolis, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough as I noticed everything was starting to shut down. Then the world shut down again for about a year, and then 2022 rolled around, and all the cruise stuff that they talked about trying to do, they could finally start doing it, and that led to an action-packed year for that, where we saw them again on that mixtape in 2022, and she found out that one of the restaurants that Donnie had owned, they were going to do like a stick their sand in the sidewalk thing. We went down there on the fly, and then found out there was 2 shows that was going on that same tour, and they actually gave free tickets for anybody willing to stand out and turn into a lobster, which was kind of cool. Because if you notice, I have beautiful Irish skin, and it loves the sun. Well, it loves to get burnt in the sun at least. So maybe it doesn't like the sun. I'm not sure. So she got to sit under an umbrella at Starbucks, and I got to stand in the sun and sign up for comp tickets. And then we went on the cruise, and that was probably off of her bucket list, the thing she loved most. I know she absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it. I really appreciated how they ran it. Everyone really had a good time. The people had a blast doing it. The people that were making it, you could tell, really loved it. There's a deep affection between the fan base and the actual band, which you just feel it immediately when they come in. It's like family when they get back together. In 2020, and then this year's been nuts. Digital Girl got injured, and So we were actually going to drive down to Houston, but she was in the hospital, so that got kiboshed. And then they did a 15th anniversary with the Block, which is 2008 when they got together. So we drove down to Chicago again and spent 2 to 3 days doing that, where there's Q&As and concerts and that kind of stuff. They really do take care of their fans. I say this a lot, but I really, truly mean it. Like the Q&As, that kind of stuff, they had stuff set up in like the first round when they were famous, the boxes when they were dolls. And they actually had the people standing there. They had people stand in the boxes with them. It was a lot of fun. And that leads to what's happening here in a couple days, which is me getting in the car with Digital Girl. And so Squirrel and Digital Girl are going to go south. And we're going to go drive like 24 hours because it's cheaper than flying and I have vacation time. Go to Port of Miami, and we're going to go on a boat, and I'm going to go be the 6th most important guy in her life for about 4 days. It happens, I know this. But she will have a blast. And I probably will too. I end up feeling a little bit more like a German Shepherd protecting a sheep than maybe fully enjoying myself. But I'm willing to do that because she really does like it, and it's the way she lights up, how excited she is, that kind of stuff. It's amazing. The biggest things I think I like about the band is they're very receptive to their fans. They had a lot of Q&As during, and I know a lot of bands do this, so I'm not saying they're the best, but this is the one I have contact with as far as stories and just the interaction and stuff. During COVID, they had meet and greets where 3, 4, 5 of them would go on videos and do live stream, and people would talk and interact and that kind of stuff with them. They had virtual DJ shows. One of the tour boat that I went on the cruise went on to a virtual tour, and so they took a lot of their activities and just put it on the phone or put it on the screen, and had all of their blockheads, which is what they affectionately call themselves, be able to enjoy themselves. They do a meet and greet where they have 10 people come up, they stand either left or right of the people, they get their picture on the boat. They took the time when they didn't have to, and they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off, like I said at the one thing with the BlockCon that they had where it was in Chicago. They stood on the boxes for a fair amount of time, some more than others, some a lot, and I was really impressed by how much they did that. And they very actively made sure their fans were appreciative, because they knew the only reason that they could do what they do is because the fans were there. So this is on tape delay for a couple days. I'm now learning a new thing where I can actually delay the stuff, and hopefully it doesn't affect the freshness date, but that's what I got today. This will be coming out about the time that I'm driving down to Florida. So Squirrel can take Digital Girl down there and she can recheck something off her bucket list, especially with this year and just all the injuries and stuff. She needs it. She really does. And I think it's good because injuries affect all the people who are loved. They affect me too. But if you like what you saw, go ahead and give it a like. If you have any cool comments you want to add, things that maybe you had cool New Kids experiences you want to talk about, maybe you went to some of the shows that I talked about, go ahead and put them in the comments. Otherwise, if you like where these content is running here in the last couple, and you want to see more of it, you want it to come directly to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.